The Atlanta Braves took down the New York Mets in extras yesterday for what I think was the biggest win of the year. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Wednesday, June 18th, your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. I want to talk about what Atlanta needs to do tonight against Paul Blackburn. We don't have much of a sample size of him this year, but the things he's doing are different than what he did last year and in his career so far. So I want to get to that. I want to talk about the fact that 1/3 of your lineup is among the worst hitters in baseball and how to fix it. We'll do that. But first, we've got to talk about the walk-off win, 5-4 in 10 innings last night by the Atlanta Braves. They take down the New York Mets. And this one, honestly, did not look like it was going to be a win. I have to host the postcast over on Locked On Sports Atlanta afterwards, and I had already prepared a thumbnail for the loss. I had done the background for a loss because it looked like when you got to the 8th inning that Atlanta wasn't going to do the dang thing, right? The Mets pick up 2 runs in the first inning, something where they pick up a run in the first inning on a Juan Soto solo shot. They pick up 2 more runs in the second, single to Jeff McNeil, walk to Francisco Alvarez. Very uncharacteristic for Spencer Schwellenbach. He gets him down 0-2 and then throws 4 straight pitches out of the zone for a walk. And then with 2 outs, Tyrone Taylor just flares a double down the right field line. 214 feet, like 80 miles an hour off the bat. Expected batting average of something dumb, 040 or something. Was it that? Yeah, 040. But it drops just past Ronald Acuna Jr.'s glove. Alvarez, the catcher, scores from first base. McNeil easily scored from second. And that is a 3-run lead. Atlanta gets 1 back in the 3rd inning. And a situation where it felt like it should have been more. 2 outs, Ronald Acuna Jr. walks, Eli White singles, Matt Olson singles, which scores Ronald. Now you've got runners on the corners and 2 out, and Riley grounds out to third base. An opportunity to score multiple runs, to get closer in there. If you could put a ball in the outfield, a line drive over somebody's head, or even just get a ground ball through the defense, you're scoring another run. Instead, a ground out. The Mets add another one in the 5th. That's Tyrone Taylor solo shot to tag Schwellenbach with 4 total runs. Looks like it's over here, right? You get to the 8th inning. This is something where you couldn't get David Peterson out of the game. There were so many at-bats for Atlanta that were first pitch, second pitch. His pitch count's in like the upper 70s or low 80s when he gets to the 8th inning. The broadcast is talking about he could throw a complete game here. Nick Allen walk, Ronald Acuna Jr. single. They go to Reed Garrett. I talked about this yesterday. Reed Garrett's ERA for the season was under 1. Alex Verdugo singles to load the bases. And then from there, it looks disastrous, right? Matt Olson called out 4-pitch strikeout. He gets rung up on a check swing for the second strike of the inning. And then they get a called strike on a splitter that is off the plate. If you look at it in StatCast and Game Day, off the plate, but still pretty close and hard to take when you're down 1-2. He gets rung up. Austin Riley just mishits an elevated cutter and flies out shallow right field to Juan Soto. You can't bring anybody in. Looked like you were about to get the Noble Tiger, right? The no outs, bases loaded, ending with team incapable of getting an easy run. Bases loaded, no outs, you don't score anybody. And then Marcell Ozuna works a 6-pitch at bat. He gets down, he gets to 2 strikes, fouls a splitter off, and then gets another splitter, but instead of being down, it's inside, and just sheer strength, just muscles it over the third baseman and rolls it all the way into the corner. 3-run score. It becomes a tie ball game 4-4. I'd argue biggest hit of the season so far, because Atlanta looked not only like they were going to lose, but that they were going to lose in frustrating fashion by loading the bases with nobody out and not getting a run. Top of the 9th comes in. Juan Soto singles off of Dylan Lee. Pete Alonso hits a fly ball it carried farther than I thought it was going to. I thought that was going to be an easier catch for Ronald. He didn't get a great jump on it, but he does a really good job of knowing where the wall is, leaping at the wall, making the catch shy of the wall. And Juan Soto had walked too far off of first base. He doubles up Juan Soto, 2 outs. Jeff McNeil strikes out. There you go. Ronald, we go to the bottom of the 9th. Edwin Diaz is in. 1, 2, 3. We're going to the 10th. And this is where shout out Raisel Iglesias. The Braves send out Iglesias for the 10th inning. They've got Luke Williams at shortstop because he pinch hit for Nick Allen. And Iglesias gets a 3-pitch strikeout of Jared Young. He gets a 6-pitch fly out of Francisco Alvarez. Actually leaves a changeup in the middle of the zone, and Alvarez just mishits it. And then Ronnie Mauricio pops out to short in a 2-pitch at bat. Luis Angel Acuna, Ronald's little brother, one of their top base stealers on the season, starts the inning on second base and ends the inning on second base. He never advances to third. Just a big freaking deal there. They send out Huáscar Brazoban for the bottom of the 10th. Automatically walks Ronald Acuna Jr. I get it. Ronald walked 3 times in this game, but that third one was intentional. Alex Verdugo pops out. Wild pitch moves Luke Williams to third. Barely. He got caught in no man's land between second and third. The ball didn't go as far away as he thought it did, but Francisco Alvarez threw behind him to second, and he was able to make it to third. He played it correctly. He got in trouble by being too far off the bag on the read, thinking the ball had passed all the way to the wall. But he takes care of it by getting himself in a position for no matter which direction the throw goes, he's going to be able to break to a bag and probably be safe. I do think if they throw to third, they may be able to quickly relay and get him at second. He was closer to second than he was pretty far off the bag, but either way, he's able to get back and he's safe. They walk Matt Olson, loads the bases. Austin Riley hits a deep sac fly to center field. Shout out Tyrone Taylor. That ball was almost 400 feet. And it was only 1 out. He goes and catches it. Not like it matters. Luke Williams scores easily and they walk it off. I just thought it was funny that, he went back to get it. Most teams, they just stop and just let that ball go because they know even if they make the catch, they're not making the throw at home. So shout out there. But this was almost a disaster, right? The only extra base hit for the Braves was that Marcell Ozuna 8th inning double. This was almost a disastrous start, and they get bailed out here. They get bailed out by Marcell Ozuna. They get bailed out by the bullpen. Because the game plan for New York here was, we're not going to let Ronald Acuna Jr. beat us. They were pitching around him in the first at-bat of the game. David Peterson had a 2-run lead when he first took the mound. And he had a 5-pitch at-bat to Ronald Acuna Jr., with 4 pitches out of the zone, and the only strike looked like it was supposed to be out of the zone and just happened to catch the corner. They were not wanting to pitch to Ronald Acuna Jr., and they said, we're not going to let him beat us. And thankfully, somebody else stepped up and did it. Somebody else stepped up, and Marcell Ozuna got the game tied, and then the bullpen held it. Pierce Johnson, Dylan Lee, Raisel Iglesias all had scoreless innings. They combined for 1 hit. That was the Dylan Lee, Juan Soto single to right. Other than that, thankfully, Atlanta could do just enough to win this game. But you also had to win this game, right? We talked about the march to 90, about how you're probably going to have to get to 90 wins to make the postseason. And the way that they lost on Sunday, if they then went into this game and not only lost, but lost the way that they did, they were able to hold this great offense down to just 4 runs, had bases loaded and can't score anybody, all of that stuff, that was going to be demoralizing. And instead, they find a way to win. Question, and we're going to get to it later in the show, can they do it again on Wednesday? We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsey Crosby, and I want to talk about the lineup. And specifically, there was a tweet from David O'Brien of The Athletic. I think we're still calling them tweets. There was a tweet from David O'Brien of The Athletic yesterday, and it was during the rain delay. He was talking about the struggles of the lineup. And I made this into a newsletter, so it's out today over on bravestoday.com if you want to go read it. But in essence, 1/3 of Atlanta's everyday lineup are among the worst hitters in baseball. Okay. Michael Harris's OPS going into last night's game was 618. Ozzie Albies, 619. Among qualified hitters, which is 3.1 plate appearances per team game played, which essentially means everyday starters, right? If you rotate in half the time, you're not going to be qualified for the most part for a batting title unless you have a bunch of 6 at-bat games. Among qualified hitters, sorted by OPS, Harris and Albies were 12th and 13th worst in baseball. And going into last night's game, there was 161 players that were qualified, by the way. Nick Allen, who wasn't the starter to open the season, he was 16 plate appearances away from qualifying as of last night. His OPS, 559, would have been 3rd worst in baseball, which means you would have had 1/3 of the lineup among the 15th worst hitters in baseball by OPS. Given that there's 161, if you're in the bottom 15, that's the bottom 10% of baseball. 1/3 of your lineup would have been in the bottom 1/3 of baseball. When you word it like that, combined with some of the struggles we've seen at times from your Austin Riley, your Marcell Ozuna, your Matt Olson, things like that, is it any surprise that Atlanta's offense has been so anemic at times this year when you think about 1/3 of your at-bats, roughly, it's not exact, 30% of your at-bats are coming from hitters that are some of the worst 10% of everyday players in baseball? And he had a follow-up tweet that talked about left field. Verdugo and White both have OPSs in the 600s. It's 631 for Verdugo, 669 for White. And Braves left fielders combined, everybody this season, when you include Brian De La Cruz and all those guys, have a 554 OPS, which is 29th in baseball. So even your left field spot has mostly been a black hole this year as well. Now, the left field spot's going to get fixed maybe soon. Jurickson Profar started his rehab assignment. They still call it a rehab assignment, yes. Started a rehab assignment last night in Gwinnett. He played the entire game. He led off. He went 2 for 3 with 2 singles, a sac fly, and a walk across 5 plate appearances. He's going to keep playing every day. The plan is for him to play every single day. He's eligible to be activated on July 2nd. He's going to address the media at Truist Park prior to that game. It will be the first time that he has directly addressed the media since the suspension. Because if you remember, they were out in LA when he got suspended. They sent him home immediately, and I believe it was his agent or the Players Association released the statement from Jurickson Profar. He's not directly answered media questions since the suspension. So he's going to do that. So we're assuming he's going to somewhat fix the left hole issue, or the left field black hole issue. But you still have 3 other bad spots: Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies, and Nick Allen. And you gotta, what are you going to do here? How do you fix that where you don't have 1/3 of the lineup being among the worst hitters in baseball? And I think it's different plans for each one. Honestly, and I talked about Ozzy the other day, I honestly think the solution for the Ozzy Albies issue is going to end up being Nacho Alvarez. He returned from rehab and they optioned him to Gwinnett. He's still playing third base. He can play second base as well. It is clear, based on how they used him during this rehab assignment, he is no longer considered a shortstop by the organization. There was, late in the year last year, he was playing a lot of third base. And we tried to clarify to people, hey, part of the reason he's playing third base is because Austin Riley is out for the year, and he's already played some second. If Gio Urshela gets hurt, he's your only option for third base. So that's part of the reason he was playing third base. But it's clear, since he's come back, he has played third base every day. It's clear that they do not consider him to be a shortstop anymore. The last time he played shortstop in a game was 2024. And even then, it was only 31 games. He had a .943 fielding percentage in Gwinnett. So he is no longer a candidate to be shortstop. But I do think that he's going to end up being the first guy that they try at second base. Now, when they do that, depends on if this team is still competitive, if they're selling at the deadline or not, and all that stuff. So we'll know at the end of June, right? Is the March to 90 on track, or is the March to 90 derailed by obstacles on the road? But so far, Nacho being back, it's funny. Last year, between AA and AAA, he hit .284 with a .792 OPS. This year, it's only been 5 games, caveat there, but he's batting .286. He's batting the exact same he did last year, although his OPS is higher because he's walked a bunch. He has 6 walks in 5 games since returning. I do think the answer to Ozzy, at this point, I don't know if it's fixable. Barring some drastic moves like dropping the switch hitting, like changing to a tiny bat or a smaller bat, I do think the answer for Ozzy is going to end up being replaced. And I do think Nacho Alvarez is the first guy they'll try at second if they do that. Whether it's a benching, whether it's an injury, whatever, or a trade, whatever it might be. For Michael Harris, the only option you really have here is he has to get better. He is an elite defender in center field. You can live with one of your elite defenders being bad, right? What is that thing that Anthopoulos always said about Orlando Arcia? If he's playing really good defense, we can bat him ninth and whatever we get. The problem was he wasn't playing really good defense anymore. Nick Allen is still playing fantastic defense, and we'll get to Nick Allen in a second. But for Michael Harris, he just has to be better. And the good thing is he is improving, right? Over his last 15 games entering last night, he was hitting .255, which was an improvement over what he had done earlier in the season. In his last 7 games, again, entering last night, because that's where I was when I wrote the newsletter, he was slugging .458. The issue with Michael Harris, and it has always been the issue, is the chase. When Michael Harris swings at pitches in the strike zone, going into last night's game, he's hitting .296 and he's slugging .450. Again, if the ball is in the strike zone when he swings, he's a .300 hitter. The issue is he chases 40% of the time. It's literally second percentile in baseball. There's just a handful of players who chase more than him. And I'm at the point, honestly, if you're going to have a 5-pitch at-bat to Michael Harris, I don't know why you would throw him more than 1 pitch in the strike zone ever. I really don't. Just throw him a bunch of balls off or down below the plate because he's going to swing. And so the only solution to not have a black hole in the lineup in center field is for Michael Harris to get better. You're not going to replace Michael Harris. They're not going to find a defender that is better than Michael Harris without paying a ton of money, and you're not going to pay a ton of money when you're already paying Michael Harris. So that's the only solution to fix that black hole, is he's got to be better. The other reason he has to be better is it's incredibly hard to fix shortstop. Alex Anthopoulos gets a lot of flack for not having figured out shortstop. And I do think some of that is deserved. But I also think that we really don't appreciate how hard it is and how few options there are at shortstop from a year-to-year basis in free agency. I pulled, MLB.com had a list from the beginning of the season of the expected free agent class this offseason at shortstop. And let me read you some names here. Bo Bichette, Trevor Story, Ha-Seong Kim, Orlando Arcia, Miguel Rojas, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Ahmed Rosario, Paul DeJong. That list is optimistic, right? Trevor Story's not going to opt out. He's got 2 years, $50 million left on that deal, plus a $5 million buyout on a club option. He's almost 33 years old. He's hitting .232. He's striking out almost 30% of the time. He's a below average defender, -2 outs above average. No team is going to pay him $55 million for the next 2 seasons. He has zero reason to opt out of that unless he just hates being in Boston. It's the only reason he would opt out. Ha-Seong Kim. He's getting paid $13 million this season. He has a player option for $16 million for next year. He still has not debuted for them. He's been on rehab for about 3 weeks in Durham. He was hitting just .211. They pulled him from rehab last week for hamstring tightness. He's supposed to start rehab again, they think the end of this week, but he still hasn't even debuted for Tampa Bay. Who's going to pay him more than $16 million to play for them next year when he can instead be healthy, have a platform year, and go to free agency and get a massive bag? Because that's what happens. Shortstops that go to free agency who can hit their weight and play decent defense get a bag. I pulled a list from MLB Trade Rumors of the last 4 off seasons of the shortstop deals, the contracts. There have been 10 different contracts for free agents, not counting extensions. Like Bobby Witt's $288 million deal is not even in this. There have been 10 different contracts in the last 4 off seasons for a shortstop of at least $100 million. There's been 4 of them over $200 million. There's been 2 of them over $300 million. And if Atlanta is still stuck on this $22 million a year threshold, again, nobody under Alex Anthopoulos has signed a multi-year deal for more than $22 million. Not a single one. If Atlanta's still stuck on that, none of these deals would have been signed. The cheapest one of these was the Javi Baez deal and the Trevor Story deal at $23.3 million. And every deal but the Javi Baez deal and the Carlos Correa second contract with Minnesota, all of them also declined qualifying offers when they went to free agency. Meaning that if the Braves were to sign somebody, one of those guys, they'd assigned a Trey Turner or a Corey Seager or a Xander Bogaerts or a Willie Adames or whatever, they would have lost a high draft pick as well. Now, it looks like they're going to reset the CBT this year. We'll see what happens at the deadline, but it looks like they're going to reset it. That will lessen the penalties if they sign a qualifying offer player this offseason. I don't think Bo Bichette is the answer there. Right now he's batting .270 with a .424 slug. It's a .737 OPS. He's 27 years old right now. But his defense, he's -3 outs above average at shortstop. He's been positive exactly twice in his career. And he has a career -17 outs above average. He's not going to play shortstop through the duration of his next deal. He's probably going to get a qualifying offer. And he's probably going to cost $23 to $25 million a year, for most of these deals are either 6 or 7 years, or once they hit $200 million, they start being 11, 10, that kind of range. I don't think, given his age, it's possible somebody throws stupid money at Bo Bichette and offers him a 9 year deal, and he's making $25 million a year. And that is just not a good investment from a getting competent defense standpoint, unless your plan is play him at shortstop for a year or two and then move him to second base so that you can use one of your young guys like a John Gill or whatever. Because teams don't trade shortstop prospects. They don't like to move shortstop prospects. Because if they're blocked at shortstop or they can't make it at shortstop, they can play almost anywhere else on the diamond. Jackson Merrill was blocked at shortstop by Fernando Tatis Jr. and then Ha-Seong Kim and Xander Bogaerts. He just went and became a Gold Glove caliber center fielder instead. Brooks Lee was blocked at shortstop in Minnesota by Carlos Correa. He's played second. He's played third. They used him some at short when Correa was out. Jordan Lawler's blocked by Geraldo Perdomo in Arizona. But Eugenio Suarez is about to hit free agency. He might get traded at the deadline if Arizona's out of it. And they're going to install Jordan Lawler as the third baseman. If you can play shortstop at even an average level, you can probably play almost anywhere else on the diamond. And so it's going to be really hard for Atlanta to trade for a top shortstop prospect. All of their shortstop prospects are low in the minors. John Gill, I think, is in single A still. He's still a Green Jacket with Augusta. And maybe you take on somebody's bad deal and try to fix a player. Maybe you take on a really good defensive second baseman and try to change their position like Nico Horner or something. But for the most part, you're stuck with Nick Allen. Or somebody of the same ilk as Nick Allen, a very good defender with an anemic bat. And you either have to live with their poor production or you have to fix their bat to be better. That's why it's so important for Michael Harris to get going. Because you don't have the ability. It's a lot, like it's so hard to find an upgrade over Nick Allen that doesn't hurt your defense. That's why it's important to fix Michael Harris. In just a second, let's talk about tonight's matchup. Paul Blackburn, how do you beat him? What does he do? We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today, Lindsey Crosby, and I want to talk about tonight's matchup. Same time, Chris Sale versus Paul Blackburn. I do think this one's set up for Atlanta to have an advantage in this one. If you look at last night's game, and yes, Atlanta also did, but New York threw their trio of best relievers. They threw Edwin Diaz. They threw Huascar Brazoban. They threw Reed Garrett. You were able to get production off of two of those three guys, right? You got the bases loaded off of Brazoban and got the sac fly to win it. You got a 3-run double after loading the bases off of Reed Garrett. So, you were able to get production off of both of those guys. And I trust Chris Sale to go deeper in the game than I trust Paul Blackburn. Blackburn's making his second start and his fourth appearance since returning from knee inflammation. He missed the start of the season. He's made one start. He's pitched a total of 9 1/3 innings this year. It really doesn't feel like, unless Atlanta does a lot of first pitch swings, it really doesn't feel like you're going to get 7 innings out of Paul Blackburn. Really does not. Now, what he's doing this year, again, it's a small sample size, simply because he's only thrown 9 1/3 innings. But what looks different from last year is he scrapped the four-seamer completely. He was a 6-pitch guy last year. Cutter, four-seamer, almost equal amounts. Changeup, slider, sinker, curveball. 6 pitches, all 3 fastballs. This year, he has not thrown a single four-seamer. He's gone cutter, slider, sinker, change, curveball. And he is very different on a handedness perspective. Okay, so one, the cutter, 89.2 miles an hour, below average velocity, even for a righty, right? He's leading with a fastball that is not even 90 miles an hour, okay? He's got the slider at 26%, so it's cutter 31%, slider 26%, and then after that, sinkers like 92 miles an hour, 17%, changeups 15%, curveballs 10%. And again, hand to hand, it's completely different. Against lefties, cutter, changeup, curveball. He will occasionally throw a slider. He will occasionally throw a sinker, but it's cutter, changeup, curveball. That's what you get if you're a lefty. Righties almost exclusively will see sinker slider. He'll actually throw more sliders than sinkers. So he's trying to get ground balls out of you there. He has thrown a cutter from time to time to a righty. He has thrown a changeup from a time to a righty. He's not thrown a curveball to a righty this season. Last season, he threw over 120 curveballs, and just about 1/4 of them were to righties. So he could do it, right? He could bring it in, but it's not a very common pitch for him against righties. So you're going to have an opportunity to do some stuff. From some of the pitch plots that we've seen, again, very small sample size. The pitch he's thrown the most is the cutter with 51 across 9 and 1/3 innings. From a lot of the pitch plots that we've seen, the control's not really dialed in yet. Okay. He's still going everywhere with it. He's not walked a ton of guys, but the control doesn't seem to be dialed in. So our guys need to be patient. They need to take some pitches. They need to get him out of the game early, because I feel like in this situation, in this matchup, they have already used their 3 best relievers. And outside of that, they've got one lefty in the pen, and he's not a guy they really trust. They have an opportunity to really work this pen, where on the flip side, Chris Sale has shown the ability to go deep into games. Chris Sale has shown the ability to throw 7 innings, to do things like that. So it's something where the Braves absolutely have the pitching advantage in this one. And I feel like in the bullpen too, simply because their relievers, for the most part, had to work harder than Atlanta's relievers yesterday. And 2 of them arguably failed in their jobs. While all of Atlanta's guys, they combined for 1 hit. Dylan Lee probably should have given up a second, but Ronald made a great play on the Pete Alonso fly ball. And not a lot of New York's hitters have a great track record against Chris Sale. Francisco Lindor is the exception. 34 at-bats against Sale. He's batting .412. He's got 2 homers and 8 RBI. But outside of that, nobody else even has more than 6 at-bats. Juan Soto is 1 for 7 off of Chris Sale in his career. Now, the 1 hit was a home run, but he's 1 for 7 off of Chris Sale in his career. So Pete Alonso, 0 for 5 off of Chris Sale in his career. Atlanta has the pitching advantage here, and if they can win Game 2 and win the series, we're all going to feel a lot better about this team's possibility of getting back into the wild card race. Again, we'll know by the end of June. We can either make March to 90 a thing, and I'll do some merch for it, or we can scrap the whole concept and talk about what's going to happen to the deadline. We'll know by the end of June either way, but tonight could go a surprisingly long way towards getting us there. This has been Braves Today for Wednesday, June 18th. Do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, leave a 5-star review, maybe some kind words. I think Apple lets you do the written review of the show. I'd appreciate that a lot. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we drop the next episode, whenever I upload a short, or when we go live for our Friday live show mailbag. I want your questions in that. I love that live show. It's becoming one of my favorite things every single week to do, to just talk ball with you guys. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.